The MLB Trade Deadline is just about a month away, which means it's decision time. And I think the most interesting team to look at for the trade deadline is the Toronto Blue Jays. They're coming fresh off a 7-game skid that pushed them down into 5th place in the American League East, 15 games out of first, 6.5 out of the 3rd wildcard slot. And of course, I've got a couple really attractive pieces that are going to be free agents pretty soon and seem likely that they could be traded, although the Jays general manager has said that's not going to happen. We'll see about that. So that's what we're talking about today. Leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you guys do enjoy the content. A lot of more baseball discussions coming up very soon, but let's kick things off. So Toronto, they're not a terrible team by any stretch of the word. If they did not play in the highly competitive American League East, I'm sure their fortunes would be a bit better. But they play where they play, and you just have to take it at face value. They're in 5th place, and it looks unlikely that they're going to be able to surpass the top 2 teams, Baltimore and New York, anytime soon. So let's break it down. A couple names that will be free agents by the end of this season: Yusei Kikuchi, Kevin Kiermaier, Justin Turner, and Danny Jansen. Now, Kikuchi was not very well loved his first year in Toronto, but he has pitched better since then, although I don't know if he's a big name that the Jays are really psyched about needing to get back on the roster. Kiermaier had a much better last season than this season. Toronto brought him back on a 1-year deal. Of course, still brings you plus defending, but they also have Dalton Varsho, who is kind of leading the charge in the outfield. Justin Turner had a slow start. He's been better. He's old. We'll see what happens with him. And then Danny Jansen, when he does hit, he hits. I mean, he's had some great moments for the Blue Jays, and that's a name I do think that they probably would look at returning. You look at the end of next season, 2025, that's where you get the big names. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to be an unrestricted free agent alongside Bichette, and Chris Bassett finished 10th in Cy Young voting last season, who has been pretty good as a Jay, but there is a decent bit of money tied up to him, and the Jays might be looking to get off of that. But the top 2 names there, Vlad and Bichette, and that's what we want to talk about, namely because those are the biggest trade chips that they've got to offer other teams. Now, of course, Vladdy, his hype when he first came out in 2019 was enormous. He was one of the top prospects in baseball, and anytime you're a second-generation major leaguer, especially when your dad was Vladimir Guerrero, one of the game's greatest players, there's going to be a lot of expectations, and I think he has done a decent job of living up to that so far. Now, of course, he did peak and really broke out in 2021. He had a 166 WRC plus, weighted runs created plus, 100 being the median, and that means he's 66 points above the average MLB hitter. And he hit 48 home runs that year when he was the runner-up MVP to Shohei Ohtani. Now, since then, he had a 133 WRC plus in 2022, including a Gold Glove win at first base, 118 WRC plus in 2023, and this season back up into the 130s at 132. Now, Vlad Guerrero does have his doubters. He does have his haters. It might be because of the things that he said in the media. Could be because of, his dad being who he is. Could be because he plays for a big market team like the Blue Jays. I don't know, but he has been good. Now, a couple things to dissect with Vlad, because obviously he's not performing to what he did in 2021. He hasn't came close to hitting 48 home runs, and his WRC plus has been at least 30 points off ever since. Now, his ISO, which separates power from batting average, looking strictly at extra base hits, has dipped every single season since. A 290 ISO in 2021 is all the way down to 147 this season, which obviously is not great. You want a higher ISO, but he's still performing well. If you look at his plate skills, he's walking over 10% on his career, and he's striking out about 16% of the time. He's a good hitter, and he's hitting the snot out of the baseball. StatCast really does like Vlad. You see a ton of red, a lot of 90 percentile attributes for his hitting. Problem is, what he's not doing from 2021, it's his launch angle. The proof is in the pudding. 9.4 average launch angle last season is down to 5.2 this season. Generally speaking, the sweet spot of the bat, not quite where you want it to be, ideally for power. But he's still been a very good hitter. 130 WRC plus, you'll take that every day. And StatCast would expect that he's a better hitter than he actually is. I'm not concerned about Vladdy's bat. The problem is, what does he give you besides that? Fangraphs has him noted as a bottom 5 base runner in Major League Baseball this year. If you take a look at their XBR, base running above average statistic, and he's also been a bottom 5 defending first baseman. It's a position that you mainly look for hitting, but that's all that he gives you, and 132 WRC plus, when that's all someone brings to the table, what value is that? How much in dollar amounts? And I think that's been the big issue. Why Vlad and the Blue Jays haven't been able to find a deal to this point. Now, I will say I do think Vlad is a guy I would try and get back 100% if you are the Toronto Blue Jays. He's still very young. I don't expect this hitting to go away anytime soon. And again, what I'm talking about here, I think there's reason to believe he can be even a bit better. Is he going to put up those 2021 stats each and every single year? I doubt it, but you'll absolutely take what you've gotten so far, especially considering there's reason to expect he could be even better. Now, I don't know how much money you have to pay him. I don't know how many years he wants, but his value is high right now. Unless you get a really good offer, I don't think I would trade him. We'll move on to Bichette. That's a bit of a different story. You're looking at a guy that pretty much came up alongside Vlad, another second-generation star. You know, his dad, Dante Bichette, not a Hall of Famer, but one of the great hitters in, the 1990s or so in Major League Baseball. Coors effect be damned. And you look at Bichette, he's a 121 career WRC plus hitter. That's all the way down to 78. See, he's a below average hitter by quite a ways this season. When you look at it, he's striking out less than ever, but he doesn't walk. I always say, someone like Juan Soto, if the balls aren't falling, if it's just finding leather, you can count on that on-base percentage being high because he's going to work walks. He's going to get on base. Bichette's about a 5% walk rate guy. So if he's not getting base hits, he's not going to give you too much. And you look even further than that, just like Vlad, he's not a great defender. And he plays a premium position, shortstop, probably the second or third most important defensive spot. If you want to rank like catcher, center field, and shortstop, he is -10 defensive runs saved on his career and -14 outs above average. Now, he's still a good hitter. I don't doubt that he's going to resurface. I don't think he's this bad, and he is injured at the time that we're recording this. Biggest issue right now, he's not getting the barrel to the ball. He's pretty much halved his percentages of getting the barrels and sweet spot percentages that he's gotten in the past. Obviously not a huge home run hitter like we have seen from Vladdy previously, but once again, what do you have here? What's the dollar sign amount? And what is his value to other teams when he hasn't been that good this season, and both him and Vlad being free agents at the end of next season? I do think you try and trade Bichette. I do think there will be teams vying for him. Maybe they try him out at second base or something. We've seen that swap happen before for shortstops, and they wind up playing a bit better there. And maybe you do, try and look at the options for Vladdy as well, because he is a good hitter. It just really depends on where you see your window going forward for your franchise. If you look at the end of 2026, the year after Vlad Guerrero and Bichette are free agents, you've got George Springer and Kevin Gausman, both of those contracts slated at $24 million each season. They're going to be off the books for those two. And then that's also when Dalton Varsho, who's been a pretty damn good Blue Jay since he came in, great defender, one of the best in baseball. And then Alejandro Kirk, who has been an all-star for them. Both of those are going to hit free agency for the first time. So I would absolutely look at trading at least one of them. Now, I do think they've got some interesting guys at those positions in their system. Now, the Blue Jays, MLB.com ranks them 24th in Major League Baseball, not particularly high, but they have some captivating young players. They've got in Orelvis Martinez, who's the 89th prospect in baseball, according to MLB.com, and he's a second base, third base, shortstop. He's an infielder. He's got a lot of power, slugged over 500 from 2023 and 2024. Problem is, he just got pumped for steroids. He played one game, he got the call up to the bigs. Played one game, got his first hit, and then he's suspended for the next 80. So we'll see what that has in store for him going forward, but I don't really see him as a shortstop. He's more of a second baseman. So again, I don't think that's necessarily a Bo replacement, but you look at a couple guys that can be Bo replacements, such as Arjun Nimala, who is, I believe, the first Indian player. He was drafted last year, 20th overall in the first round, and he's a shortstop. He's a better defending shortstop than Bo Bichette. You can pretty much count on. He is a bit raw offensively, but he is also 18 years old, so you kind of come to expect that. They've also got Leo Jimenez, who I believe is number 6 in their rankings, and he's another shortstop that I think can play the position better than Bo. So if you look going forward, I don't think you got to be too worried that you don't have anybody to fill that spot. And then you look at potential first base options in replacement for Vlad. Spencer Horwitz has been really good for Toronto since he's came up. I mean, he's been playing mostly second base because Vlad's at first. The Blue Jays have tried and have definitely looked at getting Vlad more opportunities at third. But Spencer has been pretty ridiculous this year. He had a cup of coffee with Toronto in the majors last season, but he's put up an eye-popping 193 WRC plus this season through 59 plate appearances. Not a ton, but you look further at the plate skills, 19% walk rate, 10% K rate. I mean, that is very good. And he showed that he can play the position of first base in the minor leagues. If you are looking to get off Vlad, if you think he's going to ask for more money, a longer contract than you're willing to pay him, I think that's a viable option. It really does come down, in my opinion, to what teams have to offer. You know, are they going to give you guys the farm? Are they going to give you maybe potential proven young players for a guy like Vlad or Bo that they can rent for a year and a half and maybe look to extend long term? You know, MLB landscape has been weird this year. There's the top dogs, and then there's been a lot of, teams right in the middle of the pack. You look at the National League, besides Philadelphia, Atlanta, Milwaukee, and Los Angeles, you've got a lot of teams right around 500 vying for the wild card slots. I believe the third wild card slot still under 500. So I think there's lots of teams that are going to look to buy. They might believe they're more contenders than they actually are, but I think that could work out really well for Toronto. So all in all, I think Bo is a guy I would look to move on from. I think I like the guys they've got in their system enough to where they could move on from that going forward. It doesn't seem, at least to me as an outsider, maybe Blue Jay fans can, air their opinions as well. I don't know if Bo wants to be a Blue Jay long term. That's kind of the perception that I've gotten. And then Vlad Guerrero, again, it's, what kind of value can you get from him? If it's really high, maybe you decide to part ways. If you don't think that you're going to be able to find a good spot to get him locked up long term. So that's what I think about the Blue Jays here. Obviously, they're in a kind of weird spot with two franchise cornerstones right there. They've been a pretty good team. I mean, they were just in the playoffs last season. They lost somebody. But, it'll be interesting. Like I said, we'll talk more about the trade deadline going forward. I'm very interested. It's going to be one hell of a July 30th, I believe, this year. So if you guys did enjoy this, leave a like down below and let me know your thoughts and opinions on the Blue Jays and what do you think that Toronto should do.